Welcome back. Day 2 of frictionless fat loss. We're doing the dang thing, guys. We're doing it. We're getting you off that dieting roller coaster. To live happily ever after, never dieting again. So we got food relationship 101 today. How to build a healthy relationship with food. And I think this course is pretty darn important, this section. I think they're all very important, especially when it comes to learning all the ins and outs of sustainable fat loss. But with this section, I have a feeling that a lot of us have a good sense of knowing what we need to do. We need to walk a little bit more. We need to work out a little bit more. We need more consistency with our nutrition, having more protein, having more fruits, having more vegetables. We get a lot of that stuff. But this allows us to dive into a little bit more of the things that maybe are causing us to not stay consistent with it. Causes us to get off track and stay off track. Causes us to spiral. Maybe diving into a little bit more on the emotional eating. And again, emotional eating, we have a whole section on that in day 4, which again is pretty darn important as well. But we're going to dive into things today because remember, we are looking for freedom, to have that confidence in ourselves, in our ability to take care of our health, our nutrition, our fitness, and just to be able to go enjoy special moments of life. Things like holidays, vacations, anniversaries, even a Friday night out without feeling like we have to be stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, and feel like we're going to ruin our progress. So again, we can live happily ever after, a fulfilling life, having that freedom. So what we're going to talk about today, we have 3 topics. 1, why your relationship with food matters, the importance of it, your psychological beliefs behind food that may be causing you to be inconsistent and making things unsustainable for you, and sort of making some shifts there. And we'll give you some solutions because there's a lot of common beliefs we have. So we're going to give you some solutions to those beliefs as well as how to start working and improving on them. And then some mindful eating solutions. So let's get into it. So let's start with talking about why your relationship with food matters. So what does food mean to you? When you think of food, what is it to you? A lot of times we think of food as just fuel for our body. And that could be influenced by, again, I won't talk about him too much today, no promises, but Isaac the Influencer, right? He's telling you food is fuel for your body. You should only be having whole foods, nutrient-dense foods, should be really rigid, nothing else. No poisonous sugars or things like that, which is a bunch of bullshit, but food is more than fuel for the body. It is fuel for the body. Don't get me wrong. That's right. But it's also comfort, celebration. It's part of your culture. It's memories. It's moments in life. It's one thing I always remember. When I was a kid, back in like elementary school, middle school, my mom always took me the day before school started and then the day after school ended. We always went to this place called Friendly's. You may be familiar with it. And got an ice cream cone. And it was just the thing I remember. Obviously, I'm 31 now. That was decades ago. And it's still something I remember. So that's still a memory, a positive memory for me. But right now, what also food might be is your stress reliever. It might be how you're coping with some certain emotions. So what we want to do is understand your relationship with food is important to achieving freedom in your eating habits, in your overall lifestyle. Again, kind of quieting down those emotions that maybe come along with food right now. So your relationship with food reflects on how you treat yourself, both physically and emotionally. So right now, when you think of food, it might be bringing you a lot of stress. You might have a social event coming up, and it just brings you a lot of stress. Or maybe you were a little bit flexible one night with your food choices. Maybe you're just enjoying some, let's say, pizza and ice cream, and it's bringing you a little bit of guilt. And what that ends up doing, maybe there's a certain belief there, that ends up causing you to emotionally eat because you feel guilty, or you end up binging, or this is causing this yo-yo effect, losing and regaining the same weight with your diet. So it's starting to create these sort of patterns. So a healthy relationship with food allows you to enjoy meals without guilt, making overall balanced choices. Again, still making sure that food is fuel, but also understanding it's more than that, and it's okay to have some fun and have some flexible foods, but ultimately find a sense of peace with food in your life. So the impact your life can have with your relationship with food. The relationship with food can have an impact on your life. So a strained relationship with food can often spill over into other areas of life. Again, maybe it's a social interaction, maybe it's a social event causing some emotions to come up, stress, anxiety, overwhelming. And then maybe you were a little bit flexible at that social interaction or that social event where it causes you to spiral a little bit again, emotional eating, binge eating, so on and so forth. So it can impact a little bit of your mental health, these social interactions, the way you interact with other individuals, and your self-esteem. But imagine having freedom to eat without overthinking, to enjoy a night out without stress, but still making choices that align with your goals overall without feeling burnt out and deprived and feeling like you're over restricting yourself. So in order to achieve food freedom, there's this thing I call the Goldilocks zone. So food freedom isn't about giving up on your goals where it's like, hey, I have these weight loss goals I need to hit. So this means I cut out all these things. I'm being rigid. I'm being restrict. No, we want to find more or less of a Goldilocks zone. This is where I find with my one-on-one weight loss coaching, where answers, yes, like I said early on, we have our principles in day one, right? We want to get you to those principles. But it's not that black and white. Like how we get you to those principles, we got to find your recipe. Like the recipe that works for me is my recipe. Kevin's recipe may not work for you. So what we want to do is find your Goldilocks zone, knowing that you can have the slice of pizza, piece of cake, the ice cream cone, the donut, and no, you're not sabotaging your progress. And it doesn't need to spiral into other things. It doesn't need to lead to overindulging on other foods. So when you heal your relationship with food, you gain the freedom to live a fuller, more fulfilling life. You stop seeing food as the enemy. You're not scared of it. Again, you start seeing it as part of a balanced, healthy, overall lifestyle. Next, we're going to get into psychological beliefs we have with food. Your psychological beliefs about food, again, such as viewing it as maybe good or bad, or labeling it as good or bad, will impact your behaviors around it, around eating, and which can impact your fat loss results or lack of fat loss results. So what these beliefs tend to do are cause us to lead to emotional eating, some inconsistencies with our diet and our nutrition, overindulging, binge eating, and just unsustainable behaviors that again are impacting our weight loss results, but also our overall health as well. So here are the most common I found beliefs we have about food that are impacting our results. We have perfectionism, that all or nothing. You're either all in or you are all out. You're viewing foods or labeling foods as good or bad. You feel like we have to earn foods. Again, food is fuel, right? But we know it's a little bit more than that, which we'll get into. Or we're over-restricting ourselves from food choices. We're maybe eliminating food groups altogether. Maybe like we think sugars are bad or carbs are bad or fats are bad, whatever it may be. We're also extremely cutting our calories. We have a huge restriction with our calories. And then lastly, we're going to go over overly complicating diets. And one thing I always say is your diet, if it has a name, it's probably not for you. It's probably not sustainable. So let's get into it. First on the list, perfectionism, the all or nothing mindset. So what you typically believe here is you have to stick to a rigid plan without any flexibility. There is no wiggle room. There are these rigid rules that's black and white, and you are all in it. When you're not following those rules, you are completely out. This is unrealistic for our lives. This is unsustainable for our lives. This mindset is what leads to the cycle of being in, very rigid, to having the case of the fuck it's, pardon my French, where you are just completely out, no rules, no guidelines, and you are going absolutely banana pants. And this causes a cycle of yo-yo dieting, right? You could be all in for 30, 60, 90 days, maybe 6 months even. But once that time's up, one, you're probably burnt out, you're exhausted to it, and you never learn to have a healthy relationship with certain foods. Have things in moderation. It's either you're all in or all out, which is making it hard to sustain the weight loss and the progress you make over time. So here's the solution. When it comes to perfectionism, the all or nothing mindset, first and foremost, I hate to break it to you, you're not perfect. Unless your name's Tom Brady of the good old New England Patriots, which is just a joke, but he's pretty darn close to perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have slip-ups. We're all not great at everything in life. But what I want you to focus on when it comes to your nutrition, when it comes to your training, just focus on being consistent, about 80% consistent. That is about 24, 25 days of, let's say, hitting your calories, hitting your protein, getting the amount of steps you are setting as your standard for steps. It's not hitting them every day. It's just hitting them about 80% of the day. 80% of the time. So perfectionism is, again, unrealistic. Instead, focus on being overall consistent rather than being perfect. The other thing, number 2 here, think something over nothing. Again, when we think of that all or nothing mindset, if we can't get a full-on intense workout and burn 1,000 calories, then we're like, well, screw it. What's the point? Well, here's the thing. When that's consistently happen, being inconsistent is consistently happen, that leads to staying the same pretty much. An imperfect something in those moments is always better than a perfect nothing. So if you can't work out for 30 minutes or an hour, what about 20 minutes? What about 25 minutes? You can't get a workout in? Cool. What about going for a walk? Or what about getting mini walks throughout the day? So emphasize progress over perfection. Focus on making just little gradual improvements and sustaining these habits that will be a part of your life forever. Because that's the goal. Again, how we lose weight is how we're going to keep it. So we're trying to build these foundations and just keep up with something. Because again, doing something is progress versus the nothing you're typically used to doing. Then next, we want to set realistic expectations. We want to focus on small, manageable changes rather than trying to change your life and everything by tomorrow. Because again, you can be more consistent with these things versus striving for perfection, and then you can continue to celebrate the progress, the incremental improvements, rather than viewing this journey as all or nothing. And I will even say this, these realistic expectations, because the goal is to do them forever. What typically happens is we're at 2,000 steps a day, or I'm going to get 10,000 steps a day. Over the course of a month of doing that, again, our battery of discipline starts to come down, right? Or we just get burnt out some sort of way where it's hard to keep up with that big of a change. Where what if we just change it to 3,000 steps, 2,500 steps? Well, that's not a huge change, but it is a change, and it's a step in the right direction. So just make these little changes and set the expectations of just being consistent with those small changes. Because again, if we think about playing this as the forever game, you have forever to work on it. And if you think about it like this. If you lose 1 pound a week for the next year, that's 52 pounds in a year. Imagine your life being 52 pounds less and also being more confident in your abilities to keep that off as well versus try to lose 52 pounds in 52 days. So that's the little things. Small things can lead to big things. Next, focus on long-term freedom. Reminder here, Rome wasn't built in a day. This process, unfortunately, feels like it's going to take some time. Not forever, but it will take some time. So it's going to require some time, some practice, and put on your patience pants. Because it's more or less longer from what you're used to. Again, you might be used to losing 30 pounds in 30 days, where it might take you a year now at this point to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. But here's the thing. A lot of times I talk about is like quick results. If you want quick results, stop trying to make progress so quickly. And the reality is, if you lose 30 pounds over the course of the year and you keep it off, you're down 30 pounds for the year. If you lose 30 pounds and gain 30 pounds, cycle that over and over the course of the year, and you back at square one over the course of a year, you didn't lose any weight in that year. So even though the slower process might take longer, it's actually quicker in the long run. And then lastly, practice self-compassion. As I said early on, we all make mistakes, right? It's not like you got an A+ on every single test and exam you took through school. It's not like you scored a basket in every basketball game. It's not like you scored a goal in every game. It's not like you never got a foul or a penalty in those games. So just understand, mistakes will happen. When they happen, understand you're human. Reframe your thoughts when you have setbacks. Instead of letting it spiral your progress, where again, you get the case of the fuck. She's like, I ruined my progress. I wasn't supposed to eat the donut, but I ate it anyways. That's okay. One donut didn't lose all your progress, just like eating one salad doesn't make all your progress. But instead, yeah, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't part of your game plan for the day. But what happened? Let's dive into it. Let's learn from it and grow from it. You know what? I didn't eat before that. I was starving. So I need to be a little bit more on top of being proactive and making sure I have my breakfast ready to go so I'm not eating on the go and getting fast food and things like that. So you just make adjustments to your plan, learn from your mistakes, and then go from there. The goal is to always keep the goal. And then when you have these moments of feeling like negative self-talk, I want you to take a step back and reflect on how would you talk to your best friend? How would you talk to someone you really love, your kid even? If they made a mistake, we'd be like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. You ruined it. You're terrible at this. No, you'd be like, hey, buddy, like, it happens. Don't worry about it. You know, this is what we can do next time to be better on it. But, like, it happens. We're all going to make mistakes. This is part of growing. This is part of personal growth as well. I want you to talk to yourself the same way. Now we're going to get back into the belief of viewing foods as good or bad, or labeling foods as good or bad. So basically, again, what this means is you're assigning value to different types of food. And this often creates a mindset in which some foods are deemed as you can have, they're acceptable, they're good foods. And other foods are like, this is terrible, I can't have this, this is unacceptable to have this food. What this does, because guess what? We're gonna have the bad foods. They're delicious. Let's be real. Who doesn't want a donut? Who doesn't want a slice of pizza? It leads to guilt, these restrictive eating patterns where we have the food, the bad food, right? And then we spiral because of it, because we feel like we did something bad. Well, I already did something bad, so might as well keep it going because I'm going to start over-restricting myself on Monday. And it creates this yo-yo effect with losing and regaining the same weight. Versus, let's develop a healthier relationship with this food. Let's learn how to stop labeling foods as good or bad and just consider it food. Because as we talked about, food is fuel for the body. Yes, we do want to have nutrient-dense food, but they're also going to be a part of certain moments of our life. They're going to be part of special memories we make. They're going to be part of a celebration, whether it's an anniversary, a birthday party, or just celebrating your kid getting an A+ on their exam. There's different, obviously, aspects to culture where you're going to have these certain foods. There's social situations, pleasure, comfort, all different areas. So food is fuel, but it's also much more than that. There's nothing bad about having cake on your kid's birthday, eating dessert on your anniversary, or having a Friday night out with friends where you have some pizza. So here's how we're going to fix this. 1, understand that food is a part of your life. All foods have a part of your life. So we just need to change our language. Stop labeling foods as good or bad, calories as good or bad, and just consider them that, hey, this food has a bunch of nutrients in it. This one also has nutrients in it, but just not as much. We don't have to label it good or bad because in situational moments of our life, they're going to be good reason. And again, having all foods fit in your diet does make an overall healthy diet. It makes an overall healthy relationship with food. And then in those certain situations, just understand the food's role in that situation. Recognize it. What role is food playing here? As it plays multiple roles beyond just fuel for the body. Again, memories, celebration, culture. So appreciate those foods in that moment for their variety. And again, context matters here rather than just this is a bad food, this is a good food. Then lastly, yes, we want to prioritize nutrient-dense foods. Not only will it help with fat loss and weight loss from a hunger standpoint, an energy standpoint, digestion standpoint, and whatnot, but again, you can still eat a donut and still be in a calorie deficit. You can still have a day where you're more at maintenance, maybe you eat a little bit more calories, but as long as we're overall consistent, you will still make progress. So eat a damn donut once in a while. Understand that life's too short not to have a donut or a slice of pizza once in a while. All right, up next is one of the biggest reasons I see individuals constantly yo-yo diet, lose and regain the same weight over and over, is when they enter a fat loss phase, they extremely cut their calories. They cut their calories so low in order to make rapid progress. But what it causes is you make the rapid progress, but after that rapid progress is made, you kind of just go back to the way you were doing things before, which is the reason why you got to the point where you're at. So you end up gaining that weight back and typically then some. So when you cut your calories super low, it's unsustainable. You're not actually making changes. In order to make change, we need to make changes for our lifetime. We need to make changes with our behaviors, our habits, our overall lifestyle. You know, how you lose the weight is also going to be how you maintain it afterwards. So if you see a life where you are going to eat carbs and fats and pizza and sugar, cool. Maybe we need to improve our relationship with them and learn to have it in moderation, but that doesn't mean we have to completely cut it out altogether. So it's unsustainable, again, causing to the weight loss, weight regain cycle. And it also can be dangerous as far as like we need nutrients. Again, we need fuel, right? To maintain basic bodily functions. We want to make sure we're getting enough nutrients and we're not deficient in any nutrients and not impacting our overall health. All right, so how to solve this? Instead of think about cutting your calories as low as possible to make progress as quickly as possible, think about keeping calories as high as possible and making progress as sustainable as possible. Because the other thing is, this is realistic, this is sustainable, and it does allow flexibility. It gives you the chance to learn how to incorporate these foods, certain foods, your favorite foods, and having them in moderation without losing progress. All right, so up next, one of the biggest mistakes I see with our beliefs behind food is when we enter a fat loss phase, we think we have to cut our calories so darn low and try to make progress as quickly as possible. Honestly, we're just looking for the quick fix. We're trying to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. But in reality, what happens? We end up losing that 30 pounds, and then we end up going back to how we were doing things before. How we maybe got to the point where we gained body fat, gained weight. So we didn't actually make changes. And here's the other thing as well. In order to make change, we have to make changes. We have to make changes with our behaviors, our habits, and our lifestyle. And we want to start practicing how to incorporate some of our favorite foods in moderation. Because if you see a life where you're having carbs and, pizza and fats and sugar and all that stuff, cool. Let's keep it in there. Because again, an overall healthy lifestyle includes all foods, and an overall healthy relationship with food includes all foods for the reasons that we just talked about. So let's learn to keep that in place and just learn to maybe manage it a little bit better. But it doesn't mean we have to cut our calories so darn low to make progress as quickly as possible. Because here's the other thing. How you lose the weight is going to be how you maintain it afterwards. So let's find your recipe that works for you. And not only that, obviously, when we cut our calories super low, it can be dangerous as far as maintaining basic bodily functions, maybe leading to nutrient deficiencies, and just impacting our overall health. So here's our solution for this. Instead of thinking about trying to get the quick fix here, trying to cut your calories as low as possible to make progress as quickly as possible, think about keeping calories as high as you possibly can while still being able to make progress, because this will still be sustainable. Again, like we talked about prior, about a half pound to a pound on average of weight loss per week is sustainable progress. Again, you lose a pound a week for a year, that's 52 pounds in a year. And not only that, you have a better chance of keeping that weight off and incorporating these new behaviors and habits that will help you out and it'll help you find that harmony, that Goldilocks approach to your nutrition. Again, keeping your calories high while still being able to make progress is a little bit more realistic, a little bit more sustainable, something you can stay consistent with for a longer period of time, and it still allows the flexibility so we don't get burnt out and we don't feel deprived. All right, up next, very similar to our last 2 points, as far as labeling foods as good or bad and over-restricting our calories, we're also over-restricting certain food groups, certain food choices. We're eliminating them altogether. Even though we like them and we want them to be a part of our life, we start to cut them completely out. No more carbs. No more fats, no more sugars, no more junk food altogether. Again, we're putting these labels on these things and cutting them out altogether, which is negatively impacting your relationship with food. Because again, when you have some carbs, you feel like you messed up, feel like you screwed up, you spiral, end up going a week of just crushing all the foods in the cabinets, in the cupboards, and this is causing you to be inconsistent, lose and regain the same weight over and over. So even though it's a straightforward way to control your calorie intake, it isn't the most healthy way to do it with the relationship of food. Again, you end up creating these feelings of feeling deprived and feeling guilt and don't know how to handle social situations. You feel anxious, overwhelmed, stressed about certain things, which maybe you end up start excluding yourself from special moments that could be with social situations. So instead, understand this. We talked about this in day 1. Carbs, fat, sugars, junk food don't cause weight. Eating too many calories over a consistent period of time causes weight gain. As I told you again, I did a whole cut eating a quote-unquote food that we demonize as bad. We think we can't have, and I still lost weight. I lost 8 pounds roughly in about 6 to 8 weeks. There's also a professor from Stanford who I believe is about 80 to 85% of his nutrients, his diet came from things like Twinkies, Debbie cakes, all those sort of like hostesses. There's also a personal trainer, it's on YouTube, who ate a Big Mac every single day and still lost weight. So we can still include these foods as long as we are managing our overall calories. Again, whether they come from Skittles, Big Macs, pizza, donuts, dog food, all those sort of things, salads, whatever they may come from, as long as we're managing our overall calories, we will lose weight. We will lose fat over time. So again, all food should be included into your diet. Yes, focus on eating a nutrient-dense food most of the time because health and because it's going to help make things a little easier. But still, eating your favorite foods in moderation and managing your overall calories will help create success for you. It will help you lose the weight. All right, so up next is this idea, this belief, this sort of mentality where we feel the need to only have certain foods only if we earned it. So it's this idea that we have to use food as either a reward or a punishment based on our behaviors or our achievements. So let's say you hit all your workouts this week. All right, I deserve this specific food. I deserve this pizza. I deserve this ice cream. Hey, I've been following this really strict diet. I deserve this certain food. Or it could go vice versa. I didn't get all my workouts in this week. I'm not going to pizza night on Friday night with all my friends and family, even though it's going to be fun. It's going to create great memories and it's going to be a good moment. I'm not going to that. I'm going to punish myself because of it. This starts to create a negative relationship with food and yourself. You put too much of your self-worth with food. So it creates this unhealthy relationship with food. So what we're going to do instead, are you a human? Yes? I assume so if you're watching this. If you're not, that's pretty impressive. But are you human? Yes. Okay, going forward, you automatically get to eat whatever the heck you want to eat. You've already deserved the right to earn all the food in the world just from being a human. One of the things I do to initially start off with all my one-on-one clients is make sure they give themselves permission to eat whatever they want. Again, it kind of goes back to labeling things as good or bad, because you can still eat whatever you want and still make progress. Instead of viewing food as a reward or punishment, yes, view it as a way to either nourish your body, like, oh, this food's going to give me good energy today. It's going to help me get through my workout. It's going to be great. A lot of nutrients. It's going to help me feel good, help me feel clear. Or it's an experience, right? Oh, kid's birthday party. I'm going to have a slice of cake today because this is going to be a great memory for when I'm older. Enjoying some cake on my kid's birthday and just enjoying the heck out of it. And then you just move on from there. You deserve all foods in the world, regardless of any sort of behaviors and achievements. And then lastly, the diet mentality. What we typically do with a diet mentality is, one, we're typically in this 365 days a year trying to constantly lose weight, but it's also involving rigid, strict rules to most likely achieve rapid results. And you have to adhere to these specific dietary rules. A lot of these typically have a name, right? Keto, paleo, low carb, low fat, Atkins, whatever it may be. And one thing I always say is if your diet has a name, it's most likely not going to be sustainable, because the diet we're trying to find is your diet, not Joe Schmo diet, not a keto, not a paleo. For me, I'm trying to find Kevin's diet, one that allows me to make progress, but also live a life as well. Again, life's too short not to have a slice of pizza. So we're trying to figure out what diet works for you. And it might be a little bit of a hybrid approach of certain diets. But again, it's still your hybrid approach that you can sustain to and you can stick with. But what you're doing right now is you're prioritizing these short-term results. You feel like you need these rigid rules in order to achieve weight loss. But this is what's causing you to yo-yo diet. This is what's causing you to binge eat. This is what's causing you to feel constantly frustrated because, one, you're constantly in this diet mentality, trying to constantly lose weight all the time with these extreme measures and unrealistic expectations, where we want sustainable, realistic expectations that can keep us consistent and can keep us consistent with making progress but maintain it as well. So what we're going to do, instead of trying to fit your life into a diet, make fitness in your diet fit into your life. So again, if you see life with pizza nights on Fridays and ice cream with your kids and all these things, celebrating your anniversary, then still enjoy those things. right? We're not trying to flip flop it where it's like you're trying to enjoy your anniversary, but this doesn't follow my keto plan, so I can't enjoy this now. Again, life's too short not to enjoy your anniversary. So rather than pursuing these quick fixes, again, just focus on your behaviors, your beliefs behind nutrition. Play the long game here. Focus on creating habits, changing your behaviors that will complement your life, will complement your health, complement your well-being while still fully enjoying your life. This is freedom. Again, you're able to take care of your health, eat nutrient dense foods, but also not have anxiety, stress, feelings of being overwhelmed about your anniversary, a social gathering, holidays, vacation, birthday parties, and worry about losing your progress. You quiet all those voices in your head that may typically cause you to feel guilty and feel regretful with having certain foods. And you just go about making progress, enjoying life, and being a complete badass. All right, so lastly, we're quickly going to go over mindful eating, how to improve being more mindful when you eat. So let's first start off with what the opposite thing is, being mindless when you're eating, maybe being a little bit careless when you're eating. So when you're mindlessly eating, you aren't being fully present. You are most likely distracted, or something's causing you not to pay attention to what, how much, and why you're eating. It often occurs when you are either watching TV, maybe you're scrolling on your phone, watching YouTube, you're working, you're just some sort of way distracted. Where mindful eating is when you are present, you are paying attention to the experience of eating, and both physically and emotionally. You're in the moment and you're recognizing things like your hunger cues, your fullness cues, again, maybe even appreciating the experience of food. The impact that mindless eating can have for fat loss is we end up consuming more calories than your body technically needs. These distractions prevent you from noticing hunger and fullness cues, typically leading to overeating, which in return makes fat loss a lot more challenging. And there are studies that are shown when people are distracted when they're eating, they typically eat 25% more calories than those who mindfully eat. So that can be a lot. That could be a big difference on your journey. So what we want to do here, the solutions: be intentional. Practice being present when you eat. Pay attention to all the senses, the texture, the taste, the smell, your body's hunger and fullness signals. Again, when you mindfully eat, it's going to help you develop this healthier relationship with food by just improving your skills in your awareness. Again, when it comes to improving any sort of skills in awareness, we want to be able to be more intentional, be more understanding of ourselves. Again, we're educating ourselves on ourselves. So we're being more aware, we're paying attention, we're being a little bit more present than we typically are. So here are some techniques to become a more mindful eater. Start to eliminate distractions. Again, you're distracted while you're eating, which is causing you to overconsume. You're watching a show on Netflix right now, you have a big bowl of chips right in front of you, and you're just snacking. You're just snacking. All of a sudden, we're 20 minutes into the show and the bowl of chips is gone. And you just consumed extra calories that weren't maybe necessary. So turn off the TV, put the phone away for now, and just solely focus on your meal. 2, slow down. This can be a great tip in just a lot of areas of life when we feel stressed, upbeat. Before we have this reaction, slow down. When you eat, want to become more mindful, slow things down. Chew your food thoroughly. Give yourself time to taste and enjoy your food. This will also give you time for your brain to register cues of feeling full. It takes a little bit of time for that connection to happen between your stomach and your brain. So it gives you time to feel that sense of full. Have you ever had a Thanksgiving meal, and you just wolf down a bunch of food, and then a half an hour later, you're laying on the couch with your belt buckle undone, and you are just stuffed out of your mind? Because we ate pretty fast in a short period of time, and we never got to pay attention to our fullness cues. Same thing here. So the last 2 tips here. So if you feel like you're unsure if something's hunger or an emotion, maybe you have a craving. This works really well with cravings, by the way. But say you have this sense of hunger, and maybe it's something that just is out of habit, where it's like, man, I just ate, but why do I want to eat again? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's boredom. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's something going on emotionally that you are just trying to suppress that feeling down with food. So what you're going to do is, if you might think it's an emotion, I want you to do the 20-minute rule. Give yourself permission to eat whatever you wanted to eat, but then set a timer for 20 minutes and just hit go. Now, during that time, go journal, meditate, walk, take a warm shower, do whatever you want. But you are going to give yourself time between that emotion, that feeling of hunger, possible hunger, and then reacting, right? We want to give ourselves space, give ourselves time there. And then after that 20 minutes is up, see how you feel. If you want to eat, then go eat. Put it on a plate, put it on a bowl, portion out, give yourself a serving size, and enjoy it. But if not, that feeling will most likely subside. It will go away, and then you just move on in life. And if you do eat, what I usually recommend is like eat it, enjoy it, all that. And if you're still like, I still want some, cool, do it again. Do the 20-minute rule again. So a lot of times you again need that slow down to have that brain sort of connect where it's like, hey, we satisfy that craving. We satisfy that hunger. We can move on now. Then lastly, pause between bites. Simply take a bite, put your fork down, and then again, chew slowly, enjoy it, swallow it, boom, pick that fork up, chew again. It just allows you to check in with your hunger cues. One thing I like to do as well, which was pretty uncomfortable for me at first, but you just kind of get used to it because you're not familiar with it, is take a halftime break. So halfway through your meal, look at your plate, eat half of it, and then just wait for 3 to 5 minutes. Just do nothing, sit there and wait. Again, we're just slowing things down, allowing your brain to sort of check in and see how we're feeling from a hunger standpoint, from a fullness standpoint, and just give ourselves that space. So that is closing out day 2, Food Relationship 101. If you do have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out my email or send me a message on Instagram. That's where you can reach me down here. But other than that, let me move out of my noggin again. Thank you once again for being here. We have day 3 coming up. The Behavior Blueprint. Building consistent, sustainable behaviors and habits. I will see you then.